The human envoy stood at the edge of the grand observation hall, hands clasped behind his back, eyes steady but alert. His name was Ethan Hale, a former frontier soldier from Earth who now served as a diplomatic escort. He was not the strongest person in the room, nor the most important by rank, but there was something about the way he stood calm, grounded, unshaken by the scale of alien power around him. Across the hall, the alien Princess Talira approached, her footsteps quiet against the polished stone floor. She wore her armor as she always did. It was smooth, dark, and carefully shaped to her tall frame. The armor was not made for battle. Everyone in the galaxy knew that. It was ceremonial, symbolic, and never removed in public. Not once in her recorded life. Ethan had heard the stories. Some said the armor hid scars from an old war. Others whispered it concealed something dangerous, something her own people feared. A few even claimed it was a punishment forced upon her by tradition. Ethan had learned not to trust rumors. Aliens spread stories the same way humans once had, to explain what they did not understand. The princess stopped a few steps away from him. "You are quiet," Talira said. Her voice was calm, musical, and carefully controlled. "I listen more than I speak," Ethan replied simply. She tilted her head slightly. "That is uncommon among humans." "Maybe," he said, "but it keeps me alive." That earned him a soft sound from her, almost laughter. They had been paired together by the Council's request. Officially, Ethan was her escort, responsible for her safety while she attended negotiations with the Galactic Council. Unofficially, many believed he was placed there to observe her, to watch for mistakes, to see if the princess truly deserved her future role as ruler. Talira knew this. She had known since the day the armor was sealed onto her body in a ritual older than her empire. They walked together toward a quiet corridor that overlooked the stars. The massive windows revealed a field of distant suns and slow-moving trade vessels. The galaxy felt peaceful from this height, though both of them knew it never truly was. "Do humans fear what they cannot see?" Talira asked suddenly. Ethan considered the question. "Sometimes," he said, "but we fear what we refuse to understand more." She stopped walking. He noticed immediately and stopped as well. For a long moment, the princess said nothing. The hum of the station filled the silence. Finally, she stepped closer, closer than protocol allowed. Ethan did not move back. Her voice lowered, not secretive, but personal. "Do you want to know?" she asked. The question landed like a stone dropped into still water. Ethan had been trained for threats, ambushes, and political traps. This was none of those, and all of them at once. Most beings would have jumped at the chance. Curiosity ruled many species. Others would have grown nervous, thinking it was a test. Some would have demanded answers, believing they were owed the truth. Ethan did none of that. He met her gaze through the smooth visor that concealed her face. "No," he said calmly. Talira stiffened. For a fraction of a second, something flickered in her posture. Shock, confusion, maybe even pain. "No?" she repeated. He shook his head. "What's under your armor is your choice," he said. "Not my right." The corridor felt suddenly smaller. "Everyone wants to know," she said quietly. "They always ask." "Then I'll be different," Ethan replied. "I don't need to see what's hidden to respect who's standing in front of me." Silence returned, heavier than before. The princess stepped back, as if creating distance gave her room to breathe. Her hands trembled slightly before she clenched them into stillness. "You surprise me, human," she said at last. "That's what they pay me for," he said lightly. But inside, he felt the weight of the moment. He sensed this had not been a simple question. It had been something deeper, something she had carried alone for a long time. They resumed walking, though the air between them had changed. Later that cycle, the council chamber filled with representatives from dozens of species. The negotiations were tense. Old trade routes, new borders, shared defenses. Every topic carried hidden dangers. When Talira spoke, the room listened. Her voice was steady, confident, and precise. Yet Ethan noticed the way some counselors watched her armor instead of her words. A senior delegate from a rival species finally spoke. Princess, the delegate said, how can we trust a leader who hides herself from her own people? A quiet ripple moved through the chamber. Ethan's jaw tightened. Before anyone could stop him, he stepped forward. She's not hiding, he said clearly. She's standing. The room froze. Humans rarely interrupted council proceedings. When they did, it usually meant trouble. The delegate turned toward Ethan. And you are? Someone who knows armor doesn't define strength, Ethan replied. Choice does. Talira turned toward him, her visor reflecting the chamber lights. Human Ethan Hale speaks with permission, she said firmly. The council allowed it. Ethan continued, voice calm but firm. On my world, we learned that judging leaders by appearances cost us dearly. Some of our greatest protectors were once dismissed because they didn't fit tradition. The delegate scoffed. Your history is filled with conflict. Yes, Ethan said. And also with growth. We learned that trust starts when someone chooses to stand, even when the world demands they hide. The chamber fell silent. Talira finished the session with controlled grace, guiding the talks away from hostility. When it ended, several council members looked at her with something new in their eyes. Not suspicion, consideration. Back in the quiet corridor, she turned to Ethan. You defended me, she said. You didn't need defending, he replied. Just someone willing to speak. Her voice softened. You refused to ask about my armor. Yet you spoke for me. I spoke because it mattered, he said. Not because I wanted answers. She studied him for a long moment. Perhaps, she said slowly, one day, I will tell you what lies beneath. That's up to you, Ethan said. I'll still be here either way. For the first time, the princess did not feel like a symbol, a secret, or a burden of tradition. She felt seen, and somewhere in the vast silence of space, something ancient and rigid began to shift quietly. But forever. The station halls still echoed with voices and movement. But something unseen had shifted. Whispers followed her armor as always, yet now there were pauses in those whispers. Hesitation, thought. Some council members no longer looked away when she passed. Others watched her with new interest. As if seeing her for the first time, Ethan Hale noticed all of it. He stayed close, not because protocol demanded it, but because he sensed the pressure building around her. Attention could be more dangerous than open hostility. They walked together through a lesser-used observation wing, where the stars were dimmer and the noise of politics felt far away. You changed the room today, Ethan said quietly. Talira did not answer right away. I did not, she said finally. You did. He shook his head. I just spoke. You were the one standing there. Her steps slowed. On my world, she said, standing is not always considered strength. That sounds familiar, Ethan replied. She turned her helmet slightly toward him. Humans truly did struggle with this? Still do, he admitted. But we got better once we stopped pretending perfection was real. They reached a private chamber reserved for royal guests. The door sealed behind them with a soft sound. Inside, the room was simple, no guards, no council symbols, just quiet, light, and distant stars. Talira rested one armored hand against the wall. You said you did not want to know what is under my armor, she said. I said it wasn't my right, Ethan corrected gently. Her voice lowered. Then I will tell you why it exists. Ethan remained silent. This armor, she said, is not meant to protect me from others. It protects others from fear. She explained that her species valued symmetry, balance, and inherited traits above all else. Their leaders were expected to embody a narrow image of physical and mental perfection. Long ago, an ancient ruler was born different, able to sense things others could not. Instead of celebrating this, the empire panicked. Difference became danger. Fear became law. When I was born, Talira continued, they knew immediately. I perceived patterns others missed. I heard emotional shifts before words were spoken. It unsettled them. Ethan frowned. That sounds useful. It is, she said. But tradition does not care for usefulness. It cares for comfort. The armor was created as a compromise, a way to hide what made others uneasy, while still allowing her to exist within royal law. It became her symbol, her prison. her shield. "I learned early," she said, "that if they could not see me, they could accept me." Ethan felt something heavy settle in his chest. "On Earth," he said, "we used to hide people too. Not always with armor. Sometimes with silence." Talira turned fully toward him. "Then why did you not ask?" she asked. "Most would demand proof. Truth. Because truth isn't always revealed by looking," Ethan said. "Sometimes it's revealed by trusting." Nut. That answer stayed with her long after he left the chamber. The next council session was not peaceful. A dispute erupted between two border factions, both demanding military support. Voices rose. Threats were implied. The atmosphere sharpened like a blade. Talira felt it before anyone spoke. Fear, anger, deception. Her hidden sense reacted, warning her of instability. A false data stream pulsed beneath the arguments, masked, carefully but poorly. She stepped forward. "There is manipulation here," she said calmly. Several delegates scoffed. "On what evidence?" one demanded. Talira hesitated. To explain would mean exposing what she was never meant to reveal. Before doubt could spread, Ethan stepped beside her. "She wouldn't say it unless she was sure," he said. "And she hasn't been wrong yet." The room quieted. The council ordered an immediate review. Within moments, the manipulation was exposed, a third party attempting to provoke conflict for profit. The revelation stunned the chamber. Afterward, no one questioned how Talira had known. They only questioned why they had not listened sooner. Later, in a quiet transit lift, Talira spoke softly. "You trusted me again." "I never stopped," Ethan said. Her armor hummed faintly as she clenched her hands. "For my people," she said, "what I did today would be considered dangerous." "For mine," Ethan replied, "it would be considered leadership." She looked at him, visor reflecting the stars. "Then perhaps," she said, "human ideas are more contagious than the council fears." The days that followed brought new challenges. Advisors whispered. Elders sent carefully worded messages questioning her actions. Pressure mounted for her to explain herself, to remove the armor, or to step aside. Ethan watched as she absorbed it all in silence. One cycle, he found her standing alone in the observation wing, armor dark against the glow of distant suns. "They are afraid," she said. "Of you?" Ethan asked. "Of change," she replied. He nodded. "That fear built a lot of walls on Earth too." "Did humans tear them down?" she asked. "Not all at once," he said. "But someone always had to stand first." She turned toward him. "And what happened to them?" "Some were resisted," Ethan said honestly. "Some were doubted. But history remembers them." Silence followed. Then Talira spoke words that surprised even herself. "When this is over," she said, "I may not be allowed to rule." Ethan met her gaze. "Then they don't deserve you." A faint stillness passed through her posture. "You would abandon diplomacy so easily?" she asked. "No," he said. "I'd defend what's right." "There's a difference." She took a slow breath. "For the first time," she said, "I feel the armor growing heavy." "Then maybe," Ethan said gently, "it's doing its job until you don't need it anymore." The station drifted quietly through space, unaware that something ancient was cracking. Not loudly, not violently, but enough that light was starting to slip through. Princess Talira was ordered to return to her home world. The message was polite in wording but heavy in meaning. The High Circle of Elders had reviewed her recent actions at the Galactic Council. They required her presence for clarification of conduct and suitability for future leadership. Ethan read the message twice before looking up. "That doesn't sound like a conversation," he said. "It is not," Talira replied calmly. "It is a test." The journey back to her world took several long cycles. The royal vessel moved through silent space, its halls lined with symbols of tradition, older than most civilizations. Guards bowed as she passed, but their eyes avoided her armor. Ethan walked beside her, as always. When they reached the central city, the sky glowed with pale light reflected from towering crystal structures. The capital was beautiful, precise, and perfectly ordered. Nothing was out of place. That perfection had rules. The Hall of Judgment stood at the city's heart. It was vast and open, with no walls blocking sound. Every word spoken inside carried weight. The elders waited in a semicircle, their robes pale and identical. Behind them stood scholars, officials, and observers. The chamber was full. Talira stepped forward. "Princess Talira," the first elder said, voice echoing. "You have acted beyond expectation." Ethan remained behind her, silent. "You detected manipulation during council negotiations." Another elder continued. "You spoke with certainty where none was expected." "I spoke with responsibility," Talira replied. Murmurs spread. "You rely too heavily on intuition," an elder said sharply. "Such traits have long been deemed unstable." Talira felt the familiar pressure tighten around her chest. "The galaxy is unstable," she said. "Ignoring warning signs does not create order. It creates blindness." That caused visible unrest. Then came the question she had always feared. "Is it true," the first elder asked, "that your condition influenced these decisions?" Silence fell, all eyes fixed on her armor. Ethan's hands clenched slightly at his sides. Talira took a slow breath. "Yes," she said. "It did." Gasps rippled through the hall. "You admit it openly?" one elder demanded. "I admit the truth," she replied. "Not as weakness, but as ability." An elder stepped forward. "Tradition forbids." "Tradition nearly caused a diplomatic collapse," Talira said calmly. "What you feared allowed me to protect this empire." The hall erupted in voices. The first elder raised a hand for silence. "If your ability is as useful as you claim," he said, "prove it." A massive display ignited above the chamber, showing unstable regions along the empire's border. Supply routes flickered. Civil unrest grew in distant systems. "These situations are already under review," the elder said. "What can you offer that our analysts cannot?" Talira focused. She felt it instantly, a pattern hidden beneath the data. Fear masked as loyalty. A chain reaction waiting to happen. "There is a false alliance forming in the southern corridor," she said. "It will fracture within days, creating panic that will spread to 3 systems. The chamber went still. "That is speculation," an elder said. Ethan stepped forward. "With respect," he said. "Humans once ignored early warnings too. We paid for it. Listening costs less." The elders exchanged glances. The first elder gave a sharp nod. "Verify." Minutes passed. Then confirmation arrived. Talira's assessment was correct. The hall fell silent. For the first time, no one spoke against her. But victory brought another demand. "If this ability defines you," the first elder said slowly, "then the armor no longer serves its purpose." Talira felt the words strike deeper than any accusation. "You must choose," he continued. "Remain bound by tradition, or reveal yourself fully before the people." The meaning was clear. Remove the armor. Stand without it. Ethan turned toward her, concern plain in his eyes. She did not look away. "May I have time?" she asked. "1 cycle," the elder replied. "No more." They left the hall in silence. Later, on a high balcony overlooking the city, Talira stood staring at the lights below. Her armor reflected the glow, unchanging. "If I remove it," she said quietly, "they may never accept me." Ethan leaned against the railing beside her. "If you don't," he said, "they'll never learn." She closed her eyes. "All my life," she said, "this armor kept me safe." "Safe isn't the same as free," Ethan replied. She looked at him. "You're asking me to stand alone." He shook his head. "No. I'm asking you to stand as yourself. I'll be right here." That cycle felt endless. The next day, the city gathered. Citizens filled the open plaza before the Hall of Judgment. Screens broadcast the event across the empire. This was no longer a council matter. It was a turning point. Talira stepped forward onto the platform. The armor felt heavier than ever. The first elder addressed the crowd. "Our princess will speak." Talira lifted her head. "For generations," she began, "we believed strength came from sameness, from hiding what unsettled us." The crowd listened. "My armor was meant to protect tradition," she continued, "but it also protected fear." Her hands moved to the release seams. Ethan's breath caught. "I will not rule through fear," she said. "I will rule through truth." Slowly, deliberately, she disengaged the armor. Not all at once, piece by piece. The crowd watched in silence. What stood beneath was not monstrous, not dangerous, just different, a visible sign of the ability she had always hidden. Whispers spread, then stopped. She stood tall. "This is who I am," she said, "and this is how I have served you." Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. One citizen bowed, then another, then many. Not all, but enough. The elders watched, unable to deny what stood before them. Ethan felt something tighten in his chest, not fear, pride. The first elder stepped forward. "The Empire has changed today," he said quietly. Talira met his gaze. "No," she replied. "It has begun to." As the crowd slowly dispersed, Ethan approached her. She stood without armor now, lighter somehow. "You did it," he said. "No," she replied softly. "We did." Above them, the sky remained calm. But across the Empire, something ancient had finally broken, and something stronger had taken its place. The days after the revelation passed slowly, but nothing was the same. Princess Talira no longer wore her armor. At first, it felt strange to walk through the palace without its familiar weight. The halls seemed wider. The air felt colder. Every glance carried meaning. Some citizens looked away, unsure. Others stared openly, curiosity mixed with wonder. A few bowed deeper than tradition required. Change was uncomfortable, but it was real. Ethan remained at her side, though now his role felt different. He was no longer just an escort. He was a witness to history unfolding. The elders called another gathering. This time, the Hall of Judgment was open to the public. Citizens filled the upper galleries. Screens carried the meeting across the Empire. There would be no private decisions anymore. The first elder stood. "Princess Talira," he said, "you have revealed what was hidden for generations. You have challenged tradition and survived it." Talira stood straight. "I did not challenge our people," she said. "I challenged fear." A murmur of agreement moved through the hall. "Some still question whether you should rule," another elder said carefully. Talira nodded. "They have that right." She paused, then continued. "But they also have the right to see what leadership truly means." She spoke of the crisis she prevented, of the false alliances uncovered, of the lives protected by early warning and empathy, rather than force. She did not praise herself. She spoke only of responsibility. "When we ignore those who see differently," she said, "we blind ourselves." The words settled deep. The first elder turned to the council. "The choice before us is not whether the princess is flawed," he said. "It is whether our definition of strength is." Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. A junior elder stepped forward, one known for strict loyalty to tradition. "I opposed her," he said openly. "I feared what I did not understand." He turned toward Talira. "I was wrong." Gasps filled the hall. Others followed. Not all, but enough. The council withdrew to deliberate. Hours passed. Talira stood alone in the quiet garden beyond the hall, watching soft lights drift through the sky. Ethan joined her, hands resting lightly on the stone railing. "Whatever happens," he said, "you stood honest." She smiled faintly. "That once would have been unthinkable. For humans too," he said. She looked at him. "Why do humans accept change so readily?" He smiled slightly. "We don't. We just fail enough times to learn." She let out a quiet laugh. The council returned at last. The first elder's voice carried clearly. "Princess Talira will ascend as regent of the Empire," he announced, "with full authority to guide reform." The hall erupted. Some cheered. Some remained silent, but no one objected. Talira bowed her head not in submission, but in acknowledgement. Later that cycle, she stood before the people for the first time without armor, without council walls, without protection. "I will not promise perfection," she said. "I will promise honesty. I will listen. I will adapt." She paused, then added words that would echo for generations. "And I will never ask my people to hide who they are." The response was not loud. It was deeper. Trust. In the weeks that followed, change spread slowly. Laws were reviewed. Hidden citizens stepped forward. Abilities once feared were studied, not silenced. The empire did not fracture. It evolved. Ethan prepared to leave. His mission was complete. Humanity's presence would continue through diplomats and trade. But his role had ended. They met one last time in the observation wing where stars drifted endlessly beyond the glass. "You're returning to Earth," Talira said. "Yes," Ethan replied. "They'll want reports. Explanations." "And what will you tell them?" she asked. He smiled. "That the galaxy doesn't need conquering. It needs listening." She considered that. "You changed us," she said softly. He shook his head. "You changed yourselves. I just didn't get in the way." She stepped closer, not invading space, not breaking protocol. "Do you know," she said, "why I asked you that question? About the armor?" he asked. "Yes." He waited. "I wanted to know if you would see me as something to uncover," she said, "or someone to stand beside." "And now?" he asked. "Now I know," she said. A quiet understanding passed between them. No promises were made. None were needed. As Ethan boarded the human vessel, he looked back once. Princess Talira stood watching from the platform. No armor, no fear. Just a leader. The ship lifted into space. Across the galaxy, stories would be told of fleets, wars, and power. But among many worlds, a different story spread. Of a human who refused to demand answers. Of a princess who chose truth. And of how humanity changed a civilization not by force, but by respect.